Annuities. You probably heard that word thrown around, especially when you start talking about retirement. They promise this amazing thing, security, a guaranteed paycheck for as long as you live. But, on the other hand, you hear these whispers, or sometimes shouts, about crazy high fees and mind-numbing complexity. So what's the real story? Are they the key to a stress-free retirement, or are they just a high-priced trap? Let's dig in and find out.
When you really look at it, the whole annuity conversation is a big puzzle. On one side of the box, you have this beautiful picture of guaranteed lifelong income. But on the other side, you've got all these warnings about hidden costs and sneaky fees. And it's this exact conflict that makes it so confusing for so many people just trying to plan for their future.
And this is the golden promise, isn't it? The idea that no matter what the stock market is doing, no matter if you live to be 90 or 110, you will get a check every month. It's an incredibly powerful idea, especially if you're worried about outliving your savings.
So you basically have these two completely opposite views. For some people, an annuity is the absolute retirement dream come true. It's simple, it's guaranteed, what's not to love? But for others, it's a total trap, just loaded with huge commissions for the salesperson and all these hidden costs that just chip away at your money. So which one is it?
To figure that out, we've got to go back to basics. We need to peel back all the layers of jargon and just understand what an annuity actually is and how the whole thing works.
So, at its very core, an annuity is just a contract. It's a deal you make with an insurance company. You give them a chunk of money, either all at once or over time, and in return, they promise to pay you back a steady stream of income in the future. And you know, that analogy of a personal pension plan? It's actually a perfect way to think about it. You're literally creating your own private pension. Okay, so right off the bat, you have a big decision to make. When do you want to get paid? If you go with an immediate annuity, the checks start coming almost right away. But with a deferred annuity, you pay in now, you let that money grow for a while, and then the income stream starts down the road, usually right when you retire.
Your second big choice is all about risk versus reward. A fixed annuity is all about safety. You get a specific, guaranteed interest rate. The market could crash tomorrow and it doesn't matter. You know exactly what you're getting. A variable annuity is different. It invests your money in things like mutual funds. That means you have the potential for much better growth, but you also have the risk of losing money if the market tanks.
And this brings us to the big what if. This is the part you really have to wrap your head around. See, the insurance company is making a bet on how long you're going to live. If you live to be 120, well, they have to keep on paying you, and you definitely won that bet. But if you pass away earlier than they expected, the insurance company usually just keeps the rest of the money. It's a huge risk you need to be totally aware of.
So, knowing that risk, you might be thinking, why on earth would anyone buy one? Well, that's a fair question. So, let's look at the benefits, the things that make annuities such a popular and, honestly, a powerful choice for so many retirees.
It really boils down to three big selling points. First, and this is the big one, is that guaranteed income for life. Second, you can actually customize these things with different features to fit exactly what you need. And finally, if you're someone who just doesn't want the headache of managing your investments, they offer professional help.
But, and this is a really, really big but, that word guaranteed is important. That promise isn't coming from the government, it's coming from the insurance company itself. That's why it is absolutely crucial that you check the financial strength of the company. Look up their ratings from places like Moody's or S&P before you even think about signing anything.
Now, to deal with that whole what if I die early problem, you can add features they call them riders. For example, a death benefit makes sure your kids get something back. A joint and survivor option keeps the checks coming for your spouse after you're gone. But, and you knew there was a but, right? Every single one of these extra features cost you money, usually in the form of higher fees or just a smaller monthly check.
All right, so we've seen the promise, the shiny side of the coin. Now it's time to flip it over. We need to pull back the curtain and look at the significant costs and the big drawbacks that are often buried deep, deep in the fine print.
You really need to be on the lookout for a few major red flags here. First, the commissions paid to salespeople can be sky high. Second, the annual fees can be way more expensive than other investments like mutual funds. Third, if you try to get your money out early, you can get hit with massive penalties called surrender charges. And finally, a really common issue is putting an annuity inside an IRA, which is almost always pointless and just adds extra cost.
You know, to really get a feel for the impact of these costs, let's use a real-world example. It just makes it so much clearer. So imagine you're retiring and you're rolling over $500,000 from your old 401k.
Now, look at this. It's pretty eye-opening, right? If your financial advisor puts that $500,000 into some standard, low-cost mutual funds, they might make a commission of, say, $10,000. But if they put that same money into a variable annuity, their commission could easily jump to $40,000. Now, this doesn't automatically mean your advisor is trying to rip you off, but you can see how it creates a huge incentive to sell the more expensive product.
And then there's the problem of getting your money out if you need it. If some emergency pops up and you need a chunk of your cash, you could get slammed with these things called surrender charges. We're talking about fees that can last for 6, 8, sometimes even more than 10 years, basically locking your money up unless you're willing to pay a huge penalty.
You know, one of the most common mistakes people make is buying an annuity inside an IRA or a 401k. Here's the thing. Your IRA is already a tax-sheltered account. An annuity is also a tax-sheltered product. Putting one inside the other is like wearing a raincoat in a submarine. It's totally redundant. You get zero extra tax benefit, and all you're doing is adding another layer of fees.
Okay, so we've looked at the good, the bad, and the really expensive. It's a lot to take in, I know. It can feel like there's no right answer. But there is a potential path forward, a smart strategy for maybe getting the best of both worlds without falling into all the common traps.
So check this out. Here's a strategy a lot of people use. During your working years, you just focus on growing your nest egg and simple, low-cost investments like index funds or ETFs. Then, as you get right up close to retirement, you take a portion of that money, not all of it, just a piece, and you buy a simple, immediate annuity. That way, you secure that guaranteed income you want for your basic expenses, but you've minimized the fees you've paid over your lifetime.
Look, no matter what you decide to do, if an annuity is even on your radar, this checklist is non-negotiable. Seriously. First, make sure the insurance company is financially rock solid. Second, you have to scrutinize every single fee in that contract. Read the fine print. And third, please get a second opinion from a true fiduciary advisor, someone who is legally required to act in your best interest.
So at the end of the day, it all comes down to this one big question. Annuities offer the simple, beautiful promise of a paycheck for life, but that simple promise is delivered through a product that is often incredibly complex and very expensive. So you have to ask yourself, is that promise of simplicity worth the price of that complexity? And that's a question only you can answer.